let's start with Ejisuman. Educationist Professor Adei is supporting Ghana Education Services' decision to de-boardinize 7 students from the Ejisuman Senior High School for their viral sex talk video, saying it is in order and the least they deserved. The least that the student deserved is actually talking about Professor Stephen Adei, who has been speaking. You recall that yesterday an NGO, Africa Education Watch, condemned the GES's decision to remove the girls from the boarding school. Adei arguing that letting them leave the boarding house to be accommodated in hostels without parental or school control will expose them to further delinquency. We'll hear from Professor Adei shortly, but first watch this report from Mohimin Teria highlighting concerns from residents of Ejisu.
Ejisuman Senior High School came under the spotlight 2 years ago after 8 female students broke their silence and accused teachers of sexually abusing them after a leaked video went viral. They accused the teachers of making advances at them, to the extent some being forced to stroke the manhood of their teachers. Ghana Education Service, upon investigations, dismissed 4 teachers and transferred 4 others. But it appears the ghost of that scandal will later haunt the school, as some female students in yet another viral video put the school's name in the news again. Female students justified having multiple sexual partners and condemned girls who refused to have sex with men in the latest viral video. One of them is seen encouraging other girls to sleep with men for monetary reward. Unhappy about the conduct of the students, school authorities has expelled them from boarding house. Residents have condemned misconduct action of the students and teachers who bring the school and community name into disrepute.
I'm really concerned about it. I mean, it's pathetic, you know. Such things happening in our schools. Ejisuman is one of the best schools in Ejisu. So when we hear about these kind of things, our children making such comments on social media, I mean, we become worried. We are really worried about such situations. Well, I'm really concerned about the authorities of the school. This is not the first time it has happened, and as repeatedly. It tells you the kind of disciplinary measures that has been put in this school.
I'm much concerned about what is going on. Previously, Ejisuman was having a good name, and then nowadays, the way and the manner things are going at Ejisuman is becoming unbecoming. Looking at the issues concerned about the indiscipline in the school. So as a good citizen, I'll urge the school authorities so that they will put good measures in place, or they will apply the necessary sanction to those perpetrators, so that no one will go and do same to tarnish the image of the school. Because looking at what is happening, it seems things are not going well. I think the school handlers should sit down and do something better.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Education Service has declined comment until it exhausts all available disciplinary avenues. From Kumasi for JoyNews, Mohimin Teria reporting.
Well, the residents said the school authorities must do something. Well, they did something. They de-boardinized the girls. Professor Stephen Adei says de-boardinization is the least of punishment that could be meted out to these girls. And his reaction is in response to NGOs who have spoken against de-boardinization of the girls.
If it were Ghana Christian, you are sacked because that's a private school. I can do so, but in the public school, you must still make sure that everybody has an opportunity to school. But boarding house, if you are removed from the boarding house, you must, and because when you are punishing, you are also having 2 things. First of all, you want a reform, but also there's the go-on effect on the other students. So you must not say that, you can misbehave and then, you'll be allowed to be there because to affect your education. What about the impact on the others?
So what about the reformation of the 7 children? Do you think the de-boardinization will in any way help to reform them?
Well, it depends upon whether they are people who learn from their mistakes or those who don't learn it, we can never be sure. But we must also talk about the 3,000 other students who are there and the message it will send to. We cannot say that the 7 should have unfettered opportunity because it will negatively affect them. So you must put it in the context of the 3,000, I don't know the students, but there will be about 3,000 or 2,000 students there. And you should see it in that context. Don't focus on the 7 alone. They are being de-boardinized. They are not being denied education.
They are being de-boardinized. They are not being denied of education. But I think the problem really is that the whole idea that de-boardinization is a punishment. I have here with me a counselor who probably help us. He'll be able to help us to break this down so we can all understand it. It also boils down to indiscipline, as a lot of people have described this. Amos Kevin Annan is here. He's a counselor. He's a life coach. He's everything. It's good to have you. It's been a while.
Yeah, official.
So let's take a look at before we talk about love, which we will subsequently. Let's talk about Ejisuman and what has happened there. Let's try and look at the bigger picture. A lot of people have raised concerns about indiscipline in our schools. Some have argued that, look, if you're talking about indiscipline and about the kind of things that these girls are saying, we've been doing that all along in our schools. It exists already. If you don't know, you don't know. They say it exists already. What is changed now is that they're videoing themselves, taking a phone and videoing themselves, doing it ostensibly to share it, to make sure that people see it. What are we dealing with here from your perspective? Is it indiscipline in our schools, or is it just social media that's just, you know, phones, social media that's just highlighting a problem that already exists?
Well, there are no easy answers to these things. I want to look at the pre-modern setting where we had a mindset or a worldview that says that we are, therefore I am. So our sense of identity was connected to our social connections. Mm-hmm. Then Descartes gave us, I think, therefore I am. So individuation and who you are, what you think of yourself, is more superior to what others will think of you. Then now we have, I share, therefore I exist. So if you don't share what you're doing, you actually don't exist. Mm-hmm. That is at the heart of why and what people are sharing.
Okay.
Because you share it and you're expecting people to give you a thumbs up, and you dread so much thumbs down. Yeah. That is in itself a new psychological condition that people are suffering, especially in the West. Is a huge problem amongst adolescents. Now, for this Ejisuman issue, I think that the school itself needs to be reviewed. The practices, the procedures, and the people therein. We need to take a closer look. The state authorities seized with the power to ensure that the school setting is a learning setting. Would have to look at that school, because the stories I've read, I mean, the thread in terms of news feed about the school is not positive. So notwithstanding what the gentleman said, that this is a very good school, the image of the school needs to be repositioned.
Okay. And will you focus your intervention, if you had to do anything like that, rather on the school, rather than the girls?
No, you see, it is the school, the people, and the processes or procedures in the school. Okay. So it will definitely cover the girls as well. But more than anything, those who are actually providing them care, tutelage, and guidance. Because they ought to be the first version of what is right and what is wrong. Yeah. Unfortunately, there have been reported cases of alleged abuses, violations of trust. And so when the condition is so compromised, how then do you expect these young people to model anything different from what the adults who ought to know better have taught them?
Which is what I was coming to, because I wanted to find out from you, if looking at the facts on the matter, like you said, the reports that you've read, we did reports in 2018 where some of the teachers themselves were found to be in inappropriate relationships with these girls. Do you think there's any relationship between that occurrence, which you could say perhaps used to happen until that one was unraveled in 2008? What will be the relationship between that particular case and what is happening?
You couldn't rule that out. But for all you know, that one may not have any relationship whatsoever to do with the current occurrence. Now, it is sad that these young girls would put out such language, such image, and they look so brash and don't care a thing of what you, the viewer, will think. The language itself is a problem, because if you want to change people's manners, one of the first things you do is to change their language. Language reflects your civilization or otherwise. And so if you don't have any modicum of respect for yourself and the choice of language you use in your conversations with others or communication to the public, it tells who you are. And in the olden days, they would say, for instance, your conversations and communication lines reveal the kind of home you're coming from.
Would you say this is more of social losing? I mean, I see how the girls are surrounded by other girls. I couldn't watch everything, but I see how they are surrounded by other girls. And you know, when I was in school, I used to be the cheerleader. You know, and there is this sense of wanting to do things because people are watching you. People want to see that you are daring. You can do what they can't do. Don't you think that has something to do with it? Once they put themselves on the video and they want to talk, they want to say the things that will, you know, hit people and make people feel like, yeah,
what they call it, the shock effect.
You know? Well,
it's good to want to create the shock effect, but the question is, the shock effect, what does it convey? How does it project you? And for many of these young people, they are actually oblivious of the fact that these images would outlive them. And for me, that's the most worrying bit. Because you'll be growing as a woman and people will refer to these things.
Right.
And you can't run away from it. We have politicians whose teenage lifestyles have been thrown in their face and they have become immobilized.
That's true.
On the account of that. So my caution to these young people, yes, we want to have fun, but don't let the fun injure you.
For the rest of your life.
Yes, don't let the fun compromise who you are. And especially, it's going to create disturbance for your parents.
Yeah.
Think carefully. These are parents who mean well. They have high expectations of you. They have invested in your life. And that investment can just not go away like that.
Yeah.
The girls need help. Who is going to help them? It will start from the school authorities. The de-boardination may be a school procedure, Ghana Education Service. But like Prof said, it does not deny them of school. Okay. The de-boardination does not also mean that they're going to hostels, because they go back home. The determination to go to a hostel or to move from home to that school is made by the parent and the child.
That's if the parent live close enough to the school.
That's it. You see, the idea is to make it deterrent. Otherwise, we'll be rewarding behavior that is inappropriate.
Right.
And we have to watch that space.
Okay.
And that's why I disagreed with the NGO for quickly coming to say the things they said.
Okay.
And in their narrative, I didn't even hear them comment on what the young people did and saying that this is wrong. You see, we've got to get to that point. I remember David Cameron, I shared somewhere else, that David Cameron, when there was a torching and the looting of shops in the United Kingdom and some adjoining cities around it, said to the British Parliament, we've been telling our young people about their rights. It's time now to teach them their responsibilities.